Your cat isn't ignoring you when they sit nearby without touching you. They're making a very specific choice, a choice that most people misunderstand. You might notice it in the evening. You sit down to relax, and your cat enters the room. They look at you for a moment, then settle a few feet away. Not on your lap, not pressed against your leg, just close enough. It feels confusing, because if they wanted affection, they could come closer. And if they wanted space, they could leave. But they do neither. And what this quiet distance really means about how your cat feels toward you might surprise you by the end. You see, your cat isn't measuring physical closeness. They're measuring emotional safety. The first thing to understand is this: proximity is a form of trust. When your cat chooses to sit in the same room as you, especially when nothing exciting is happening, they're placing themselves in your presence on purpose. There's no food involved, no play, no obvious reward, just you. Cats are naturally cautious creatures. Their instincts tell them to stay alert, to watch their surroundings, to keep escape routes in mind. So when your cat settles down near you, even at a distance, they're quietly saying something important. They feel safe enough to rest while you're there. But that's not the most important part, because the distance itself matters just as much as the presence. Your cat isn't staying away from you, they're staying in control. Control is comfort for a cat. It means they can decide when to move closer, when to leave, and when to simply observe. By sitting a short distance away, they create a small buffer zone, a space where they can relax without feeling trapped. You might see them lying on the floor while you sit on the couch, or perched on a chair across the room, watching you quietly. Their body looks calm. Their eyes soften. They're not tense. They're not restless. They're settled. And here's where it gets deeper. That distance can actually be a sign of respect. Cats communicate boundaries differently than humans. They don't always express affection through touch. Sometimes, affection is shown through presence alone. When your cat sits near you without touching you, they're acknowledging your space while protecting their own. It's a silent agreement between two beings who trust each other enough to share the same environment without pressure. You might not feel it at first, but your cat does. They're saying, "I want to be near you, but I also trust you to let me be myself." Most people miss this next one. Your cat is also watching you. Not in a suspicious way, not in a demanding way, in a connected way. Cats are incredibly observant. They study your routines, your mood, your movements. When they sit quietly nearby, they're gathering information about the emotional atmosphere around them. If you're calm, they relax. If you're stressed, they stay alert. If you move suddenly, their ears shift. They're tuning themselves to you. And over time, this quiet observation becomes a form of bonding. Your cat learns that your presence is predictable, safe, steady. That's why they keep choosing the same room, the same corner, the same distance. Not because they're unsure of you, but because they've learned that being near you feels right. And here's something even more personal. Your cat may sit near you without touching you because they trust you not to force interaction. Think about it. Cats value autonomy more than almost anything else. They want to choose when affection happens. When they approach you on their own terms, the connection feels safe. When they're grabbed or pulled in before they're ready, that safety can disappear. So when your cat stays nearby without making contact, they're testing something quietly. They're asking, "Will you respect my space?" And when you do, when you let them sit there without reaching out, without calling them, without interrupting, their trust grows, slowly, silently, but deeply. And here's where it gets deeper still. Sometimes, that quiet distance is actually a form of emotional closeness. Your cat doesn't always need physical touch to feel connected. What they need is shared presence. The feeling that you're there, existing in the same world, without demands or expectations. You might be reading a book, watching television, scrolling on your phone, and your cat is lying a few feet away, perfectly still. To you, it looks like nothing. To them, it feels like companionship. They're not alone, and neither are you. But the most powerful meaning behind this behavior often shows up in subtle changes. Pay attention to consistency. If your cat repeatedly chooses to sit near you, day after day, evening after evening, that pattern becomes a quiet declaration of attachment. They're building a routine around your presence, a rhythm that includes you. They can sit anywhere in the house. They could hide in another room. They could sleep somewhere else entirely, but they don't. They choose your space, and that choice carries emotional weight. Now here's the part many people never consider. If your cat suddenly stops doing this, if they no longer sit near you the way they used to, it can mean something has shifted. Not always something serious, but something noticeable. They might be feeling stressed, uncomfortable, or uncertain about changes in their environment. Cats express emotional discomfort through distance, just as clearly as they express trust through proximity. So, when a familiar pattern disappears, it's worth paying attention. Not with panic, but with awareness. Because that quiet presence you once took for granted was never random. It was communication. And here's the final truth. When your cat sits near you without touching you, they're not holding back affection. They're offering it in a quieter form. A form built on trust, comfort, and emotional balance. They don't need to climb into your lap to feel connected. They don't need constant attention to feel secure. They just need to know you're there. Steady, predictable, safe. So the next time your cat settles a few feet away and simply watches you, resist the urge to call them closer. Resist the urge to fill the silence. Instead, sit with them in that shared space. Because to your cat, that small distance isn't rejection.